just might be here in Giantland because there's an oversensitivity in the air. There's the Xavier McKinney conversation or quote. There's the Carl Banks issue. And now there's the Gano-o-matic Ganoing out for surgery. And it's another potential injury blunder for the New York Football Giants. For those that do not know, it looks like Graham Gano will be going under the knife. The Giants have signed Randy Bullock, and it looks like he will be handling the kicking duties this Sunday against the Las Vegas Raiders. I mean, it's looked like something was wrong with Gano for a couple weeks now. And there was the knee issue, and we kind of sat there and there were the misses, and you kind of sat there and you thought to yourself, well, he just doesn't look right. He just doesn't look right at all. Now it's gonna be left knee surgery, and it looks like he's gonna go off to the injured reserve. The Giants at one point in time kind of said, you know what we're gonna do? Gano can kick through this. He can get through this. Now this injury occurred, I believe, back on October 18th. That's when we saw it first on the injury report. And, it's one of those things. When you have the inability to make moves because of cap space, it turns around and it kind of hurts the team. It's kind of detrimental to the team. Now, when you bring in contracts like Walla Walla Waller, who's also on the injury reserve, you give the money to Daniel Jones, you give some money, you give the guaranteed money to Saquon Barkley. We knew we were going to have some issues. We knew we were going to have some problems with cap space this year again, and it's turning its head. And we got the $9 million from the Leonard Williams trade. And I know a lot of people are like, that's such a great thing that we got a 2 and a 5. And we talked about it before. We picked up the majority of Leonard Williams' contract, so we really just bought a 2 and a 5, which honestly I think is good for the market value. But when you can't make moves, you can't do things, vis-a-vis injury, and you have someone like Graham Gano who is instrumental to this team, not just this year, but last year as well. And if you can't bring in a quality place kicker, what are you going to do? Now, I'm not saying Randy Bullock is a quality place kicker. He was with the Giants at a cup of coffee, I think, back in 2016. And I believe he was like 2 for 3. He had one game. Now, Gano is freshly coming off that 3-year, $16.5 million extension he signed in September. So he's going to be sidelined for at least 4 games. Now, the special teams coach for the Giants was his name. I can't remember his name, but I came out and said, Gano is pretty good. He feels better, and even when he's 80 to 85%, that's better than most people. Gano has had some problems. He's had 91% of the field goal going back to 2020, 2022. Before going 11 for 17 this season. They made Gano unavailable to the media, though. Thought that was interesting as well. But it's another one of those things. You're bringing in Randy Bullock. You didn't sign a quarterback when Daniel Jones went out. You left Andrew Thomas on the injured, you didn't put Andrew Thomas on the injured reserve. You left him on the active roster. You same thing you're doing right now with Evan Neal. It's just kind of weird, some of the things that Shane is doing. Just kind of weird, some of the things that Dable's doing. It's really an interesting season. And now I talked about it yesterday, and I thought, this Raiders game could be a game the Giants could win. I know they're a 1.5 dogs right now. But, like I said, the Raiders don't have a general manager, starting a rookie coach in Mr. Pierce, the former Giant great. They're starting a rookie quarterback. They do have some, dogs on the defense. And, but I just felt, it's kind of a perfect storm for the Giants. But now with the Giants, you got McKinney again running his mouth. You got, you have Gano now hurt. You have Waller hurt. You got the Waller hurt. You know what? We've said it before.
Jones to Waller. First down.
It's just one of those things. It just looks like you see something good for a moment, and then it kind of disappears, and then it comes back, and then something happens again. And like I said, Xavier McKinney basically just kind of came out and said, I thought we were trying to win. And you tell us we're trying to win, and what happens is you trade someone like Leonard Williams. And like I said, I saw the value of Leonard Williams was to get basically the salary cap. Leonard wasn't going to be a part of the organization next year. He wasn't going to be anything, that was going to be, he just wasn't going to be here next year. So it didn't really matter if he was here or not. It would be good. It would be good to have kept him here, but he still wasn't going to be part of the organization. And I understand that you got to understand McKinney's got a little bit of a bone to pick with the Giants. They've kind of pushed him out and pushed him away. They're kind of just saying, hey, we may bring you back. We're not going to negotiate your contract this year because there's no money. And then Xavier comes out and says, I thought our mindset as a team was to win right now, not future stuff, but I guess that's not what they saw. They just got to keep fighting, and we've got to keep fighting and try to stack up wins. That's all we can do. We're never going to give up on a season. All right, that's fine. But like I said, I don't think the Giants are giving up. I think the move was more salary related for a player that Joe Schoen knew wasn't going to be here. I personally would have made some additional moves. I would have probably, if you really wanted to blow it up, you would have moved on from Adoree'. I know the injury made it a little bit more interesting. Or you could have moved on from Waller, but again, that injury was, you got another injury there. And then I possibly would have moved on from Saquon Barkley, because is Saquon Barkley going to be a part of this team next year? You're going to have to tag him. And I don't think Barkley's going to be happy being tagged 2 years in a row. I think he might have a problem with that. But to say your team has given up on the season and you guys haven't, I find that interesting. Now, when we brought in Isaiah Simmons, I've said it from the beginning. I thought Isaiah Simmons was potentially going to be the replacement to Xavier McKinney if we decided not to hold on to him. You brought him in, yeah. You're gonna have to sign Isaiah Simmons also, because they didn't pick up the 5th-year option on his contract. And honestly, he hasn't set the Giants on fire. In 8 games, he's got 23 tackles, 1 tackle for a loss. I mean, he's had 1 pass defense. He plays better at a safety position than he does at linebacker, and he even said he prefers to play at safety. I'm just not seeing a key. I'm just not seeing right now Isaiah Simmons being a key piece to the secondary. I think Xavier McKinney stands out a little bit better, a little bit more. I think he's got more of a opportunity to create turnovers than Isaiah does. But you got to look at it from the law. I mean, because you look at it right now, you got Xavier McKinney. People forget he's got 43 tackles. He's got 34 solo and 9 assists. That means he's leading the point of attack. That means he's going after it. He's also got a forced fumble as well. So I'm just curious to see what the Giant mindset is in reference to keeping McKinney. And like I said, does Isaiah Simmons even play into all this? I didn't really want to get into the Carl Banks thing because we talked about it on the live stream. And now Carl has come out and said he's not going to, he's quitting his WFAM commitment because of the fact that he doesn't want to be disrespected. He doesn't want to be treated like a caller instead of an expert. And there's this whole big thing about it. And, I saw the interview. Yeah, I hang up on people all the time. I've seen it before. And I've said it before. Nobody was listening to each other. Everyone was if you watch the interview, truly watch it, nobody was listening to to anything either one of them was saying. Carl has always been, to me, he has his moments of clarity when he's doing his play-by-play, and he speaks the truth, and then he kind of backtracks from it when you talk to him after the game. It's the same thing like Howard Cross. Howard Cross is the ultimate Giant. I love Howard Cross. I met him a bunch of times in the coaches club. And on the sidelines, but he like I said, he works for the team, so he's going to be after the blowout against Seattle, we talked about it before. James Williams and I were there. He blamed everything but everyone but Daniel Jones for that loss, because they get paid by the organization, they get paid by the franchise. But when you go on a radio show, when you are even a guest, you may have to ask tough questions. You may not have questions that you don't like to answer. And he shouldn't have been hung up on 100%. But I also feel that even if you disagree with someone, you have an obligation. You made a commitment to do something. And because you didn't like the way you were treated and you didn't come back, it would have made for great radio to go back on. But instead, he took another route, and he kind of pushed it aside and he said he's just not going to do it anymore, which is fine. It's his prerogative. My prerogative. I'm going to do what I want to do. It's my prerogative. But like I said, you can't sit there and say you don't want to be treated a certain way, but in some regards, nobody was listening to each other, and then you just back out of your commitment because you didn't like. But listen, in the real world, if you backed out of a commitment such as that in the business world, you're not going to be celebrated as a hero. You're basically going to be called out on it. That's just the way it is. That's just life. This is football. This isn't life. This is broadcasting. This isn't real life. The real world. And that's just the way it is. So where I've always come from, you honor your commitments. Good, bad, or indifferent, right or wrong, agree with, disagree with someone, you honor your commitments. And then everyone going out and flaming the guys on WFAN, that's their prerogative. But they're doing their thing. They're doing their radio show. They're idiots. They don't listen. They weren't listening. I agree. But then I love it because then people's argument, what the argument was for people, well, you can't disrespect Carl Banks because he's an expert and he has an expert opinion and he played the game and he's got Super Bowl rings and this, and that makes sense to me. But then in the bizarro world, you have people on YouTube and people that do podcasts and people that do other things that have no experience, no playing experience whatsoever, no direct knowledge of the NFL. They're just on the mic or on the camera doing a program, and they're considered experts. And then you ask them, well, did you play in high school? No. Did you play in college? No. Did you play Pop Warner? No. So you can't have it both ways. That Carl Banks is an expert because he played the game and he should know these things. But then you got people on social media and YouTube and podcasts and everything else who have never played the game but are all of a sudden experts. And that's why I laugh, because I've said it before. I played the game. I played through college. I worked 4 seasons in the NFL, 3 in the AFL. That's the Arena Football League. not the I'm old, but I'm not that old. So that must mean I'm an expert. No, I'm a dumbass on the mic. And like I said, I agree with people. I disagree with people. But I give everyone their opinion. And I try to listen to everyone else. That's my thought process on that. We're going to have the big stream on Sunday. We got the venerable James Williams coming back on. Because we want to give James another day. Because we had so much fun with James and Big L on last week's stream, and we had James had such a interesting, really interesting takes on last Sunday's stream. So we're gonna bring it back for one more time, and I gotta look out for Saturday's video. And you know what to do. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to ring that bell. You wanna know why? That'd be awesome.